Human babies are unbelievably useless. A baby horse can walk within an hour of being born. Baby giraffes can stand up in 30 minutes. Sea turtles hatch alone on a beach and immediately sprint toward the ocean while birds try to eat them alive. Meanwhile, a human baby can't even hold its own head up. If you leave a newborn human alone for a few hours, it dies. It can't walk, can't talk, can't feed itself, can't regulate its own temperature properly, and for the first few months, it barely even understands that it exists separately from its mother. From an evolutionary perspective, this looks like a terrible design. Humans became the most dominant species on Earth. We built cities, airplanes, nuclear weapons, and machines that can land us on other planets. But somehow, the first stage of our life cycle is closer to a helpless potato than a functioning animal. So what happened? Why are human babies so absurdly weak compared to almost every other creature on Earth? The answer starts with a problem so catastrophic that evolution basically had to perform a biological hack just to keep our species alive. And that problem is our brain. Human brains are enormous. An adult human brain weighs about 3 pounds and consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy, despite being only a tiny fraction of our total weight. Compared to other primates, our brains are ridiculously oversized. And that's what allowed humans to develop language, planning, tools, culture, and eventually civilization itself. But evolution created a massive problem the moment our brains started getting bigger. Because babies have to come out somehow. For millions of years, early human ancestors walked on 4 legs. Their hips were shaped like other apes. Birth wasn't exactly easy, but it was manageable. Then, around 6 to 7 million years ago, our ancestors stood up. Standing on 2 legs completely changed the shape of the human pelvis. A pelvis built for efficient upright walking is narrow and bowl-shaped. That's great for balance and movement. It is terrible for pushing out a baby with a massive skull. Anthropologists call this the obstetric dilemma. Humans evolved 2 traits that directly fight each other. We evolved bigger brains, and we evolved narrower hips. Eventually, evolution hit a wall. A baby's head was becoming too large to safely fit through the birth canal. So, at some point, human babies basically started getting evicted early. Compared to the rest of the animal kingdom, human babies are born extremely premature. Not technically premature in the medical sense, but developmentally premature. A foal is born ready to run because it spent more time developing inside the mother. A chimpanzee baby is far more physically capable than a human newborn. Human babies, on the other hand, arrive while their brains are still wildly unfinished. If human babies stayed in the womb until their brains were developed enough to function independently, a pregnancy wouldn't be 9 months. It would last roughly 18 to 21 months. And at that point, the baby's head absolutely wouldn't fit through the mother's pelvis. So evolution settled on a compromise. Get the baby out earlier, finish the construction later, which sounds insane, but it worked. Human babies are basically external fetuses. For the first year of life, huge parts of brain development are still happening outside the womb. That's why newborns sleep so much. Their brains are growing at an absurd speed, roughly doubling in size during their first year. But unlike many animals, human babies aren't born with a finished operating system. They're born adaptable. And this is where things get really interesting. A baby deer is born knowing how to stand. A spider knows how to spin a web without going to spider school. A bird doesn't need flying lessons from a physics textbook. A lot of animal behavior is pre-programmed hardware. Humans took a different route. Instead of hard-coding everything into instinct, evolution made humans flexible, painfully flexible. A human baby's brain is incredibly unfinished because it's waiting to download information from the environment. Language, culture, social behavior, tools, survival strategies, all of this gets loaded in after birth. In a way, humans traded instinct for learning, and learning requires time. Lots of it. This is why human childhood is bizarrely long compared to most animals. Humans stay dependent for years. In many hunter-gatherer societies, children don't become fully self-sufficient until their late teens. From a pure survival standpoint, feeding a creature for over a decade before it becomes useful sounds horribly inefficient. But humans are not built for survival alone. Humans are built for adaptation. And adaptation turned out to be unbelievably powerful. A wolf born in Siberia and a wolf born in Spain behave mostly like wolves, but humans can grow up in deserts, jungles, frozen tundras, giant cities, or islands in the Pacific and learn completely different ways of living. That flexibility comes directly from the unfinished brain of a helpless human child. But being born helpless created another massive problem. Who protects the baby? Most animals solve this simply. The mother handles it alone for a while, and then the offspring gets on with its life. Human babies made that strategy impossible, because human infants demand constant care, and I mean constant. They cry more than most primates. They wake up repeatedly at night. They need carrying because they can't cling to fur like baby monkeys do. They require constant feeding. Basically, human babies are exhausting. And strangely enough, that exhaustion may have shaped human society itself. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer groups noticed something unusual about humans compared to other apes. Humans raise children cooperatively. Grandparents help, older siblings help, fathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, even unrelated members of the group help. It's called cooperative breeding. A human baby is so difficult to keep alive that our species turned childcare into a team sport. Some researchers think this changed human psychology permanently. We became highly social, empathetic creatures partly because isolated parents would struggle to keep a helpless child alive on their own. Your giant social brain exists partly because babies were such a ridiculous burden. And then there's another weird thing about babies. They're cute. This sounds less scientific, but it's actually vital to our survival. In the 1940s, ethologist Konrad Lorenz proposed something called baby schema. Human babies have oversized eyes, round cheeks, tiny noses, and large foreheads. These specific proportions are basically a biological hack that triggers aggressive nurturing instincts in adult brains. Even people who don't particularly like children often react emotionally to baby faces. Evolution weaponized cuteness. Because if human babies looked like hairless, grumpy goblins with adult proportions, some exhausted parents might have simply walked away. And honestly, even with the cuteness upgrade, raising babies is still hard enough that humans constantly complain about it. But here's the strangest part of all. The helplessness of human babies may be the exact reason humans became intelligent in the first place. For a long time, time, scientists assumed intelligence caused long childhoods. Now, researchers think it works the other way around. Long childhoods create intelligence. When a brain spends years learning instead of relying entirely on instinct, it becomes capable of far more complex behavior. Human children play for years, and play isn't useless. Play is running simulations. Children learn language, social rules, cooperation, deception, creativity, and problem-solving through endless games and experimentation. Human kids basically spend a decade running physics engines and social simulators inside their own heads. Other animals do this too, but humans pushed it to the absolute extreme, and it all traces back to one dangerous evolutionary compromise made millions of years ago. Our brains got too big, our hips got too narrow, and evolution responded by turning humans into the most unfinished animals on Earth. Every human civilization, every scientific discovery, every empire, every religion, every work of art, every spaceship, all of it came from a species whose babies can't even survive the night alone, which is honestly kind of absurd when you think about it. The dominant species on this planet begins life completely helpless, not because evolution failed, but because this helplessness gave humans something far more valuable than early independence. Time. Time to learn, time to adapt, time to become something no other animal ever did.